Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Naomi and these are the headlines. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has called for an immediate end to Israeli hostilities in Gaza. He was addressing a special session of the UN General Assembly on the crisis in Gaza, where over 230 Palestinians have been killed in 11 days of Israeli airstrikes. Qureshi said the international community should act to stop Israeli attacks and provide assistance to Palestinians. He said the UN Security Council has failed in its duty to prevent the crisis. He added that a just solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is must for international peace. In Afghanistan, at least 9 members of the same family have been killed when a roadside bomb struck their vehicle in southern Helmand province. Local officials say women and children were among those killed. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. Pakistan has urged India to ensure safety and security of minorities, particularly Muslims, and their places of worship. In a press briefing, the Foreign Office spokesperson condemned the demolition of 100-year-old Gharib Nawaz Mosque in India's Uttar Pradesh state. Zahid Hafiz Chaudhary said India must fulfill its responsibilities under the international human rights laws. In India, authorities have ordered tighter surveillance of a rare fungal disease hitting COVID-19 patients as the country battles the world's highest number of daily infections. Doctors believe that the use of steroids to treat patients could be causing the rash of cases because those drugs reduce immunity. Meanwhile, the WHO Director for Europe says vaccines being deployed to fight the pandemic are providing protection against all known variants. Globally, the virus has infected nearly 165 million people and has claimed over 3.4 million lives, including 19,987 in Pakistan. And in sports, Pakistan Cricket Board says all remaining 20 matches of Pakistan Super League 6th edition will be played in Abu Dhabi. In a statement, the board said the UAE has given approval to hold the remaining part of the PSL in its capital. The tournament was postponed in March due to rising COVID-19 cases among the players and officials. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has called for an immediate end to Israeli hostilities in Gaza. He was addressing a special session of the UN General Assembly on the crisis in Gaza, where 230 Palestinians have been killed in 11 days of Israeli airstrikes. He said the UN Security Council has failed to even demand a cessation of hostilities in Palestine. Qureshi said Israel must open all access points to Gaza to ensure medical aid be provided to Palestinians. In his address, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the ongoing attacks between Israel and Hamas are unacceptable. Guterres added he is deeply shocked by continued bombardment by Israel in Gaza. Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki said Israel does not believe in two-state solution and that it wants to wipe out Palestinians' presence. Well, Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu demanded Israel to be held accountable for its atrocities against Palestinians. In Afghanistan, 9 members of the same family have been killed when a roadside bomb struck their vehicle in southern Helmand province. Local officials say women and children were among those killed. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, the Taliban claimed to have seized a key district after a 6-month-long siege in eastern Laghman province. They also claimed that they captured a huge cache of arms during their offensive in Daulat Shah district. Earlier, the government said 12 Taliban fighters were killed in air raids on their hideouts in the same province. Violence in Afghanistan has significantly risen as US and NATO troops begin to withdraw from the country after 20 years. Pakistan has urged India to ensure safety and security of minorities and their places of worship. In a press briefing, Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhary condemned the demolition of a 100-year-old mosque in India's Uttar Pradesh state. He said India must fulfill its responsibilities under the international human rights laws. He also called on the international community and the UN to play their role in preserving Islamic heritage sites in India. The spokesperson also deplored the custodial death of senior Kashmiri leader Ashraf Sehrai. He added that Indian forces are systematically targeting youths in occupied Kashmir. Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa says Islamabad is keen to bolster bilateral ties and defense cooperation with Ukraine. General Bajwa, who is on an official visit to Ukraine, said this during his meeting with Ukrainian civil and military leadership. According to military's media wing, matters of mutual interest and regional security situation were also discussed in the meetings. Ukraine's top officials hailed Pakistan's efforts for regional stability and the Afghan peace process. Later, the army chief visited a military test site in Kharkiv region and witnessed the field tests of various weapons and equipment. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang have vowed to bolster bilateral ties. Khan congratulated the Chinese Premier over a phone call on the 70th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Prime Minister Khan appreciated China's consistent support to Pakistan by supplying the coronavirus vaccine. He also thanked Beijing for helping the National Institute of Health establish a vaccine manufacturing facility. Khan said the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project has generated economic activity and employment. He also congratulated Li for the successful landing of a Chinese aircraft on Mars. Beijing says a U.S. warship illegally entered its territorial waters in the South China Sea. In a statement, the Chinese military said the USS Curtis Wilbur breached the waters near Parasil Islands. China's Southern Theater Command said its ships and aircraft followed the U.S. vessel. But the U.S. Navy argued that its warship was conducting a freedom of navigation operation. It said the mission was consistent with international law as the Parasil Islands are a disputed region. The Navy added it challenged unlawful restrictions on passage imposed by China, Taiwan and Vietnam. Russia has called on Arctic states to include military issues in their talks about the region's future. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said this at an Arctic Council meeting in Iceland's capital. He said heads of armed forces of the member states should meet regularly to diffuse tensions. The Council was created in 1996 to establish peaceful dialogue between Arctic states and indigenous people on environmental issues. However, military and security issues have been excluded in these talks. Tensions have been building in the Arctic region in recent years, with governments becoming wary of each other's military activity. The U.S. has announced it would waive sanctions on Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline to Europe. Chairman of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, Robert Menendez, announced the waiver in a statement. The step was taken after U.S. Senate received a mandatory report from the State Department. The report briefed regarding the entities involved in sanctionable activity by the builders of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Earlier, Germany confirmed that the U.S. is waiving sanctions on the company behind Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline to Europe. Addressing a news conference, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said the U.S. will also remove sanctions on the chief executive of the company. Ukraine says Moscow issuing passports to eastern Ukrainians is a step towards Russia's annexation of the region. In a press conference, President Volodymyr Zelensky said in 2014 Moscow had given passports to Crimea's residents in a similar way. Zelensky said after passports, Russia annexed Crimea. He termed the development as a big problem for Ukraine. Moscow says some 527,000 people in parts of eastern Ukraine have been granted Russian citizenship over the past 2 years. Russia has offered to help mediate demarcation negotiations after Armenia accused Azerbaijan of a border incursion. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow had proposed setting up a joint Armenian-Azeri commission. According to Russian state media, Yerevan says demarcation work cannot start until Azeri troops leave Armenian territory. But other media reports cite the Defense Ministry as saying that talks with Azeri officials are underway. Russian President Vladimir Putin later held separate calls with his Azeri counterpart and Armenian acting Prime Minister. Putin said Moscow will assist Baku and Yerevan in reaching an agreement. The E3 group says tangible progress has been achieved in the fourth session of Iran nuclear talks in Vienna. In a joint statement, the UK, France and Germany cautioned that success is not guaranteed. The statement read very difficult issues still remain to be resolved. The E3 diplomats said it is critical that Iran let the UN Atomic Agency continue its monitoring and verification work. They urged both the sides to find a way forward. The trio said the agency's access will be essential to restore the 2015 deal as it cannot be implemented without it. Earlier, Iran's top nuclear negotiator said the last 2 weeks' talks have resulted in the formation of a framework for the agreement. Elsewhere, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif also consulted with the Irish President and Foreign Minister on the deal in Dublin. Saudi Arabia says Yemen's Houthis are responsible for the stalling of Riyadh's peace initiative to end the war in Yemen. In an interview, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan said the ball is in Houthis' court to decide on the ceasefire. He said the stability cannot be achieved without addressing the concerns of regional states about Iran's behavior. Earlier in a meeting between senior Houthi and Iranian officials, Tehran voiced support for peace process in Yemen. The two sides discussed the latest developments and agreed to continue bilateral talks for Yemen's peace. India has registered more than 3,800 COVID-19 deaths and over 276,000 infections overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed 3.4 million lives and infected over 164 million people so far. More in this report.
The toll continues rising in India as the country struggles to contain the pandemic. Along the banks of the Ganges, the stench of death pervades with hundreds of corpses drifting down the river. The stigma and cost of wood leave many families with no choice but to immerse their dead in water. Locals in eastern Patna city are now hesitant to buy and eat fish caught and sold from the Ganges.
The fish in the water is the same water which has coronavirus bodies floating. The situation is very difficult and terrifying. When we go to buy fish, the first thing we do is to ask the origin of the fish. If the fish belongs to ponds or sea fishes, only then we dare to buy.
Over in Africa, the immunization drive continues to face setbacks. With India banning the export of vaccines, Kenya and many other East African countries are running out of stocks. Meanwhile, Malawi has destroyed nearly 20,000 doses of AstraZeneca that expired 18 days after arrival.
A statement came from WHO which said, no, even if it was expired, we still could use it. But as a country, we had already made a decision that we're not going to use any expired vaccine.
Meanwhile, a label change allows the storage of Pfizer's vaccine for up to 1 month at standard freezer temperatures. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the US needs to help mobilize global vaccine production to save millions of lives.
Pakistan has recorded 131 more deaths from the coronavirus in the last 24 hours. Health Ministry said the virus has claimed 19,987 lives in the country so far. It said more than 4,200 people tested positive for the virus overnight. The number of infections has surpassed 890,000 with over 66,000 active cases. Nearly 800,000 have recovered from the disease so far. The ministry says more than 51,000 corona tests were conducted on 19th of May. Moreover, Pakistan has extended its land management policy to restrict the huge influx of inbound pedestrians from the neighboring countries. The policy extension is an attempt to curb the import of COVID-19 from these countries. In Pakistan, 13 people have been killed and 32 others injured after a speeding passenger coach overturned on the national highway in southern Sindh province. The accident took place near Sakha, the third largest city in Sindh. The bus was travelling from Multan to Karachi. Officials said the condition of several injured is critical. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Guatemala, at least 7 prisoners have been killed during a fight between rival gangs in a jail in Quetzaltenango. Police say most of them were beheaded as members of 2 gangs attacked each other. The prison was built to house 500 inmates but has more than 2,000. In Somalia, 4 soldiers, including a senior commander, have been killed in a roadside bomb blast. Police say several others were wounded as militants targeted an army convoy traveling to Johor city. They say reinforcements were being sent to Johor after 10 people were killed in clashes with militias. Al-Qaeda-affiliated Al-Shabaab group has claimed the responsibility for the attack. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is going on a trial for illegally funding his 2012 re-election campaign. He stands accused with 13 other defendants over their role in the so-called Bajwa scandal. They allegedly overspent about tens of millions of dollars in the campaign and hired a PR firm to cover it up. Sarkozy denied the charges, saying that he was innocent. It is his latest legal fight after being convicted of corruption earlier this year. Prosecutors said that Sarkozy bribed a judge in return of confidential information. In the Moroccan border town of Nadek, hundreds of migrants clashed with the riot police as they try to force their way past into Spain's port city of Ceuta. Madrid government has been pressing on with the expulsion of thousands of migrants who had swum or climbed into its North African enclave. This report has more.
The rush of migrants began on Monday when Morocco appeared to loosen border controls. The move was widely interpreted as retaliation for Spain's hosting of a Western Sahara independence leader. Hundreds of young men tried to approach the 20-foot-high border fence before being repelled by Moroccan police. Others had entered the water and began swimming towards Ceuta's breach a few hundred meters away. In some of the most dramatic moments, a teenage boy swam to Ceuta's beach using a dozen of empty plastic bottles as flotation devices. Around 2/3 of the roughly 8,000 migrants who made it to the enclave have been expelled.
All my body, I can't walk anything for I have from a shop. I'll walk 3 days before I will reach here. 3 days today, I don't eat nothing. The people take me here, you beat me, all my body hurt me. You see? No problem. Like God bless.
Spain has deployed troops and armored vehicles to Ceuta to patrol the border with Morocco. Soldiers and police use batons to clear migrants from the beach and threw smoke bombs to discourage others from crossing. Spain's far-right leader, Santiago Abascal, said the crisis has caused a serious security concern.
We are facing a real invasion of our national territory, an invasion directed and planned by a neighboring country. An invasion that has brought thousands, mostly male, at conscription age, to our country. Also many youngsters, minors, who have been used as human bulldozer by Morocco.
On the northern tip of Morocco, with a population of 80,000, The enclave has periodically been a magnet for refugees seeking a quick way into Europe. Spain says some 1,500 underage migrants are in a reception centers in Quetta from this and previous waves.
In North Korea, a 13-year-old has developed a disinfection robot that can roll around school. A video provided by the state media shows the square box robot spraying disinfectant with 5 holes on nozzles. It says disinfection completed after students receive automated hand sanitizer from the machine. State media says Il Song has read science magazines for 2 years. He used an electronic circuit simulation program to make the robot. North Korea claims to have 0 confirmed cases of the coronavirus, but has imposed strict border lockdowns and movement restrictions. A giant slab of ice is broken off from the coast of Antarctica. According to the European Space Agency, it is the largest iceberg afloat in the world. The newly carved berg, designated as A76 by scientists, was spotted in recent satellite images. Having a surface area of over 4,300 square kilometers, it is 170 kilometers long and 25 kilometers wide. It is slightly larger than the Spanish island of Majorca. The rapid warming of the Antarctic ice sheet is causing the melting of ice covers and glacial retreat. A long-lost painting by Russian artist Vasily Kandinsky is up for auction in the German city of Munich. The watercolor artwork Bent Tips is estimated to be worth some $366,000. More in this report.
After being missing for 70 years, a 1927 aquarelle painting by Vasily Kandinsky is being auctioned. Auctioneers say Bent Tips came from the estate of a private collection in Germany's Rhineland region. The 48 by 32.2 centimeters painting will be up for grabs between June 17 and 19 at Munich's Ketterer Kunst Art Auction House.
Die Geschichte ist, dass es aus einer Sammlung kommt.
The story is that it came from a collection and nobody knew that it was a part of the collection. It then came to us and no one has any background on it. We knew it was in the catalogue of work, but only as a small drawing. We knew that it exists, but nobody has seen it for the last 70 years.
Kandinsky did not begin painting until age 30 and taught at Germany's influential Bauhaus school for a decade.
In diesem Fall sind Informationen hinten.
There is information on the back, the title which Kandinsky wrote himself, a number under which he had listed the painting in his workshop. What's very interesting, there is a stamp, a custom stamp, from when the painting was exported to Paris. It is known that Kandinsky moved to Paris and took various objects with him, and this painting was part of that.
Meanwhile, in France, visitors are flocking to see the Mona Lisa as the Louvre Museum reopens to the public after months. France has places of recreation to open again after the 3rd lockdown in little more than a year.
It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. And now the business updates. Bitcoin has regained some ground from a 4-month low slide to $30,000 at one point. The unit rebounded to over 8% to touch $40,000 after plunging 14% during the wide fluctuations. China's decision to ban financial firms from servicing crypto transactions served as the main catalyst for the sell-off. However, a tweet from Elon Musk that his company was holding on to its investment in Bitcoin sparked a rebound in prices. The unit has been under pressure for almost a week after tweets from Musk indicating his reversal on Tesla accepting Bitcoin as payment. Australia says 20% of its grape exported to China stuck at the border. Trade Minister Dante Hunt says Canberra is trying to work out the cause of the hold-up. In an interview, Tehan said about 80% of the table grape exports got in seamlessly. When asked if the delay was due to a trade spat, he said Canberra does not want to jump to any premature conclusions. China was Australia's largest customer for grapes last year, taking about 40% of the total exports, worth around $186 million. Bilateral ties have sunk after Prime Minister Scott Morrison led calls for a global inquiry into the origins of COVID-19. China has since restricted imports of Australian products such as barley, cotton, wine and lobsters. Germany says EU trade ministers will discuss steel and aluminium trade tariffs with the US today. Economy Minister Peter Altmaier confirmed that the talks will take place in Brussels. Altmaier said the talks are an opportunity for a change in global trade politics. He said newly elected Trade Representative Catherine Tai will represent the United States. Earlier, the European Commission announced a partial truce with the US. It said Brussels will not impose retaliatory tariffs on more US products. Neither will it double duties on Harley-Davidson motorcycles, bourbon whiskey and motorboats on June 1. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. With the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.